Oh god. The internet's arguing, because everyone's quarantined. Here's the video on it.
Silent scan.
So there's a discussion happening on Twitter. It was trending today. It will not be trending by the time this video comes out, but there were a lot of arguments, and I really want to go through with them. Orcs are related to tabletop, specifically D&D, but they are also related to, say, Warcraft, other things like that. Yeah, I've actually got this 3-book box set of The Lord of the Rings, like the paperback one. It's pretty sweet. Now, I do want to go through the original tweet. I want to be very fair with this, but you can already read the title. No, orcs aren't racist. Generally. let's talk about this. As with anything, there is a lot of nuance here, there is a lot of argumentation, and I do want to say do not contact any of these people in this video, okay? I do not want any brigading, I do not want anything like that, but I do have to source where I'm getting my material. So if I'm quoting them, I need to show where I'm quoting them from. That's just how it is. So this is from someone named Quinn, content warning, blatant racism. I'm in genuine awe that this stuff came out for this edition of D&D. Holy crap. And then this person actually has the quote here from D&D. Role-playing an orc. Most orcs have been indoctrinated into a life of destruction and slaughter, but unlike creatures who by their very nature are evil, such as gnolls, it is possible that an orc, if raised outside of its culture, could develop a limited capacity for empathy, love, and compassion. No matter how domesticated an orc might seem, its bloodlust flows just beneath the surface. With its instinctive love of battle and its desire to prove its strength, an orc trying to live within the confines of civilization is faced with a difficult task. Before I go any further, let me set this up. I am part Alaskan Native. That means I come from a culture of people who could have been called savages by people who considered themselves civilized. That being said, I really personally don't see an issue with this. Orcs within the confines of D&D are a very specific thing. I think the issue is that it seems that D&D is saying all orcs are like this. There are no civilized orcs, there are no good orcs. And it sounds bad because it sounds like you are generalizing an entire people group. But you have to remember D&D is fantasy, and within D&D there are deities, aka gods. With gods, that means there are good and evil forces, objective good and evil forces in the world. Orcs are objectively evil from birth. Now, does that mean that you can't play a civilized orc? No, of course. Of course not. Here's the thing about D&D. Play however you want. If you don't like something, leave it out. If you want to change something, change it. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. But I will say this. Getting upset over this term is ridiculous. You okay? I was getting so worked up that my cat came up here and wanted to jump on my lap. Good idea. So you can see some of the responses here. Orcs aren't humans. They are literally different species. They're going to have a different nature than humans. I'm not seeing why it's a problem unless you're projecting real-world issues onto it. This is a fair point. Again, it's fantasy. It's not reality. There's a big difference, and this is the issue with what Quinn is saying. There's a big difference between saying, I don't like this, and this is racist. Completely different. If you don't like this and you want to leave it out because you're uncomfortable with it, that's perfectly fine. That's why people leave out certain types of violence out of their D&D campaigns. That's perfectly fine. I don't care. But if you say this is objectively racist, that's going to be a problem. And it's just as odd because Quinn is upset about them saying that orcs are objectively evil, and yet Quinn is going to say an objective notion that this is racist? Bizarre. Let's keep falling down this huge rabbit hole and find out where it leads. This is from James Introcaso. The current and past ideas and language surrounding orcs, tieflings, and a bunch of other sapient beings is problematic in D&D and other RPGs. If your response to that is, they're fantasy, my response is, it should be no problem changing it for the safety and comfort of players. Now here's the thing, if you want to change it, that's fine, but saying that other people should change it is the problem, and that's not okay. This isn't to say that there aren't evil orcs. There are. Just like there are evil humans. Monolithic thinking like this is bad and boring. There's a lot of racism baked into our fantasy. It's good to call it out and change it. Once again, there's no proof of racism, 1, and 2, the issue is the delineation between reality and fantasy. This is the problem. They're saying, oh, well, it's fantasy, but it's informed by our reality is racist, therefore our fantasy is racist. I'm not so sure. You haven't proven that it's racist yet. James continues, when we do that, we get games that are more fun for everyone and more creative and original. I want good beholders and mind flayers and evil angels. I want language that wasn't used to describe existing humans to make them lesser than others. Okay, I get the thing about the language. If you want to leave the language out, that's fine. But saying that other people should do it is again the problem. I don't like that. And again, this is the issue with an objective good and evil system in D&D. Angels cannot be evil unless they're fallen. So having evil angels is ridiculous. I want to go back for this. I want to go further into this, into where we're at. Dante said, the problem with D&D orc racial classification is not that orcs were necessarily designed to resemble black and or people of color cultures, but that the ideology of this group of sentient beings is unable to overcome the inherent animal nature of their bloodline is the same as in real-life racism. No, it's not the same. D&D exists in a universe where there are separate types of sentient animals other than humans. We don't live in a world like that. We live in a world where humans are the only sentient species, as far as we know. D&D exists in a reality where there are actual gods who created good and evil beings. Those evil beings including orcs who cannot be good because of that. I don't understand where people are coming from. No, it's the same thing with some of these other ideas. You can't just flip the morality on its head because in the D&D universe it's objective. This is the problem. People are applying a relative morality that exists in our society to an objective reality that exists in a fantasy setting, and you can't do that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit. It's like trying to jam a round peg into a square hole. Dante continues, anyone who is saying that this discourse is about anything else is being obtuse or smokescreening, or they're just actually racist, which, well, to be expected with tabletop role-playing grognard discourse generally. Why do you have to call a whole group of people racist? Isn't that racist in itself? Isn't that a generalization? Why would you do that? Dante continues, anyway, this is why I generally encourage people to ignore or hack out any statistical racial designators in fantasy, tabletops, because most of the time, it's this stuff again. I can't even decipher what you're trying to say there. I'm assuming that what he's saying, I'm assuming because I didn't check, is that fantasy typically, when they include racial attributes, it's because the people who made it are racist. These are not humans. You can make that argument with Red Guards and Elder Scrolls having different racial attributes, but this is an actual monster creature, an orc. What are you talking about? Okay, here's one more. This is actually from Quinn, who originally posted the first a tweet that kicked this whole thing off. You see, orcs aren't racist because they were made by an evil god to do evil. Nothing at all like real-world logic there. Never been used to describe and dehumanize real-world races with arguments stemming from what God does or says. Now, Quinn has an incomplete argument here, but essentially what Quinn is trying to say is that this is the same type of language that's used in the real world to dehumanize people. Fine. Then don't use it in your campaign. You hear this cat? This cat keeps meowing at me while I'm talking. She thinks I'm upset. The thing is, if you're not going to use it in your campaign, that's fine. But if you want to tell other people not to use it, that's a completely different story. You stop meowing, okay? Why are you meowing at me? I do want to highlight some of the tweets that argue in defense of orcs, just because they are interesting. Let's take a look here. This one from Smug Legend on Twitter. How the absolute heck do you look at orcs and see black people? How do you equate man-eating monsters to black people without a single shred of irony or self-awareness, and have the gall to call people who are saying D&D is just a game racist? This is actually a good point. I've heard the argument that people who are seeing other races in this are themselves racist, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm assuming that people are coming from good faith, that they see this and they say this is dehumanizing language for an entire race. This is like when people use dehumanizing languages towards other races in our society, therefore it's bad. That's fine. Then again, do not use that in your campaign. Whoa, why are you jumping up here? It's okay, I told you. Come on, you crazy. You see this? See this cat? Look at this. She won't leave me alone. I'm just trying to record a video and she won't leave me alone. These cats, they cannot be domesticated. Even if you raise one in society, it will always be a savage. This is from David Burton, Half Tangible on Twitter. SJWs make everything worse. Okay. Full stop. Don't use the term SJW anymore. Dude, cat, come on. What are you doing? Come here, you crazy. Don't use the term SJW anymore. It's cringe. Please do not do it. I get that there are people who have no sense of humor and see everything as political. Just point out how wrong they are, okay? David continues, even potentially cool story ideas that they want to be explored get ruined by their own inability to separate fantasy from reality. You're not allowed to have a world where orcs are monsters. That's racist. No, screw you. You're the one being racist. Look, man, again, benefit of the doubt. I'm assuming that they're coming from a good place. Even if they weren't, yeah, you're right. It is the delineation of fantasy and reality. That's the argument. Some people believe that our fantasy is informed by our reality, and our reality is so racist that our fantasy is bound to be racist. I don't know. In this case, I don't see it, but what do I know? This one's actually in regards to Tolkien Orcs themselves. I don't know. Hookto Andy said, are Tolkien Orcs racist? He explicitly based them off of the stereotype of the Mongol horde, but not the actual Mongolians. All right, you're not helping. You're not helping the case, man. I don't understand that. He told his son fighting the Axis that there are orcs on both sides of the war, including the Allies building atom bombs. Tolkien's orc is an agent of war. Yes, they are agents of war, but Tolkien was not a fan of metaphor. So orcs themselves being metaphors in The Lord of the Rings is not true, but saying that orcs exist on both sides of the war that he was experiencing at the time, that's fine. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Look, I hope my argument made sense. It's kind of hard to lay it all out. This is the problem. Again, this is the problem with taking your subjective morality and applying it to a fantasy world where an objective morality exists. In D&D, there is good and there is evil. Orcs are evil. They are not racist. Using orcs in your D&D campaign as the way they were originally written is not evil. It's not immoral. And I can't believe I have to say that. Alright, well, that's enough of this. Hope you enjoyed this. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, follow me for more content.
Silent scan. Silent scan.
I'm Frank Gamer, and I'm out.